Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Cowling. I'm the Senior Channel Marketing Specialist at PFU EMEA Limited. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you and your families are safe and well under these challenging circumstances, and hopefully we'll soon start to see an ease down of some of these restrictions that we're currently under. Thankfully, for those that are in the UK will agree with me, the weather has been glorious and continues to be glorious, which is very unusual for April. So there is a blessing that can be had there. What I wanted to talk to you today about was the transition that we are seeing towards more digital processes, particularly pertinent due to the current situation. So I think this webinar is going to be very relevant, not just to advise customers in the current times, but also how can we help them transition and move towards more automated processes and workflows in the future, and as life returns back to normal. There's certainly a lot of companies that are well equipped currently to work from home and to embrace routines and different ways of working, but there's a lot that certainly aren't. I think I saw a figure of around about 48% just aren't equipped to work remotely. So there's also an opportunity, perhaps with a second peak around working from home, that is probably around about now, where people are realizing that A, this is going on for a lot longer than I thought, and B, perhaps my employers are willing to sort of invest more in technology and infrastructure to help out to sort of push those routines at home. And of course, as life returns to normal, so companies need to escalate their digital transformation journey, because they've perhaps realized that they're just not they weren't equipped, they didn't really cope, and they need to embrace the new workplace. So the webinar is going to be very much around looking at remote working, looking at how things are changing, how can we help specific job functions, what are perhaps some of the main solutions from Fujitsu, the benefits of scanning. So a little bit of refresher on some parts, and maybe some new bits around specific functions. So everyone in the UK, apologies, this is a UK slide. I know we've got a very much an EMEA audience, but I'm sure this is the case across EMEA. But everyone in the UK has a right to request flexible working. This isn't something that an employer offers just because they're feeling generous. This is a statutory right to go and say to your employers, I'd like to work remotely. I'd like to be more flexible in my working hours. But 9 in 10 jobs are still not advertised as flexible, and a vast majority of nearly 9 in 10 employees would like to work more flexibly, and this is only going to escalate as people see the benefits of working remotely and how their lifestyle has changed. It's widely known that organizations who don't offer that remote working possibility are falling behind the curve. It's a real problem trying to recruit and motivate and retain workers, particularly younger generation who are perhaps more used to working remotely or with technology that doesn't necessarily need that personal, physical human interaction. So it's proving to be a challenge, and companies need to boost diversity and inclusion across the whole spectrum of the population. There's a lot of barriers to remote working, and a lot of this starts with management, the attitudes and the perception and the support of management within an organization to what are the potentials, what are the opportunities, what are the benefits that are going to be gained to remote working, and perhaps there's a lot of concerns around that having a negative impact on the company. Of course, there's a lot of performance KPI measurements that really do focus on hours, a presenteeism attitude, that you need to be seen to be at your desk rather than output. Is that person doing a good job? Yes, they are. Do I care where they are then? No, I don't. So it's very much around the balance between being seen and producing output and doing your job. There's the key thing around scanning and digitization with this slide is really around the ability to access key documents. It's that retrieval piece, that collaboration piece, and the ability to work remotely on documents or to find information that you need to be able to do your job effectively. We have issues with infrastructure where remote workers are just unable to access their technology. And again, we've seen a lot of things recently. I've had to turn my VPN off today because it can struggle sometimes if that's on, particularly with meetings where there might be a large number of people involved. One of the barriers around remote working is an isolated workforce and the mental and day-to-day toughness that this can impose. I think it's more prevalent with COVID-19 because we're not able to go out and do what we want to anyway, so we're even more isolated than normal. But there's a good look at some of the barriers there of remote working. And of course, we need to look at life after COVID-19 and how employees now have embraced, perhaps understood, perhaps realized the benefits of remote working when it comes to their work-life balance. There is now, for a lot of people, there hasn't been the need for 2 hours of commuting a day. There's been the ability to spend more time with children, more time in the garden. Really trying to fix some of those issues that are forever part of working life that you just don't quite get round to in your personal life. So a lot of employees may be reluctant, maybe wanting to have that conversation with employers around perhaps adopting that more flexible way of working. A lot of the transition perhaps has already taken place. So we now have some organisations have equipped their staff with technology and the ability to work from home. They might be still lagging behind when it comes to taking some of those processes back to the sort of the home office, as it were. So there's a real opportunity now to move to what's more of a paper-like future. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of organisations have realised that they need to accelerate their digital transformation journey. So they've either had functions within their organisation that aren't functioning because they don't have the access to the paperwork they need to. It's all stuck in filing cabinets in the office, or they've realised that to be competitive, to survive in the new era, or to acknowledge the fact that business won't be done the same again, they need to accelerate towards these paper-like processes and automating their workflows. So there's certainly a number of opportunities. We all know about the verticals. We all know about the key verticals that scanning is very prominent within. We all talk about healthcare. We all talk about education, about legal, around the automotive sector, manufacturing, and so on. And of course, there's going to be, and I'd like to try and explore in future webinars, how some of the landscape is changing within these vertical environments, and how can we perhaps help facilitate that conversation within those sectors. So take legal, for example. A lot of court cases are now being done remotely, far more than were ever done in the past, and it's working. So there's some very strong conversations to be had at solicitor, lawyer level around getting best practice to start with when it comes to digitalization and making sure that what is being digitized is legally admissible, easily accessible, and will work when courtrooms decide, well, actually, we can carry on working like we are. But anyway, that's certainly the vertical side. There's a lot more horizontal type conversations that could be had within specific departments to try and aid that transition and that move towards more automated workflows. So if we were to take HR, for example, huge number of paper-based documents, huge number of generated forms, resumes, employee contracts, expense claims, vast numbers of paperwork that needs to be shared amongst an organization, but also as a mechanism to, I guess, check that people are coping well under the circumstances. How can I better share? How can I make my staff access their pay information to realise the furlough part of things, to make sure that everyone's mental health is a bit better because they're actually receiving information and accessing information online. Is there information that needs validated? Can we help in terms of digitising information and helping HR to set up an intranet portal where staff can access that information? And of course, it's around approving decisions with automated workflows. So perhaps that might be the hiring process, and looking at sharing that within an organization and having people access and make decisions faster and quicker. And then at the bottom here, I've put everyone's favorite around privacy regulations. Are companies in this current day and age receiving more subject access requests? Are they receiving more information around the right to be forgotten? How can they then meet those deadlines in a timely manner if information is stored back in the office? So lots of opportunities within HR, and we have a number of ISVs who can help with the HR conversation, really talking about scanning, extraction of data, redaction of data, sharing of data, collaboration, and so on. We then look at the conversations that could be had with accounts payable. Again, vast amounts of data that need to be scanned, that need to be accessed remotely, shared remotely, perhaps digitally signed. So when we look at things like purchase orders, it's amazing how many times I may generate a purchase order, send it to a customer, that customer will print it out, they will sign it with a pen, they will then hopefully scan it, but often they might take a photo, send it back. I can't then send that to another person to digitally sign because it's now a JPEG. So again, it's trying to change the mentality, to try and change the way of thinking that if it's a digital document in the first place that's perhaps scanned and created as an editable PDF, then that is then far easier to put through the approval chain and for activity to then start. We can talk around the issue of payment. It's all around cash flow. It's about getting money into your organization, and there's going to be a lot of cash-strapped companies out there at the moment. But also, how can we encourage our customers to pay their suppliers quicker as well? Because that not only means that we're going to have more of a seamless relationship, but things will get done, and that's what it's all about at the moment, is getting things done, and making sure that you're still relevant, you're still operational, and still offering that service to your customers. So we have conversations that could be had around the scan and extract piece, the scan and create editable OCR documents. So we have a lot of conversations with accountants as well as AP departments around the scanning of receipts, the scanning of bank statements, the extraction of that data into CSV files, and then pushing that information to other workflows that might need to be done. We also have the whole issue around audit trails. So again, relating back to GDPR and privacy regulations, but also making sure that we can show not only that we can prove that we're compliant, but we can prove that in a court of law. Small and medium-sized enterprises, I guess these are the guys that we're we're perhaps really targeting with information and messaging at the minute. So a lot of things that we can talk to them around scanning and digitizing. Perhaps it might be looking at contract management and the ability to better manage QBRs and make sure that relationships with suppliers are ongoing and sticking to time. Going back to the HR side with hiring and employee records, could be looking at information like insurance documents. So again, a wealth of information that SMEs need to keep operating that may well be sat in a different location. It might be an offsite storage base. So conversations to be had around digitizing and moving them to more automated processes and ways of working. So some general recommendation for employers is not necessarily from us, it's just general. How can you embrace the transition that we're currently seeing? So challenge perceptions, challenge attitudes, not just internally but externally. Some of those negative attitudes are going to really prevent benefits of flexible working being realized. Raise awareness of different ways of flexible working. That could be, it's not just necessarily a day off a week, it's compressed hours. So how can you perhaps share some of that role with other people so that everyone's embracing the benefits, and how can that be effective in roles that have traditionally not been seen as flexible? So that's going back to the HR, to the accounts that are always perceived as internal roles, but there's no reason why that couldn't start to become more flexible as well. Flexible hiring, so improving that recruitment, retention, sustaining that talented work base that you have, and attracting that more flexible, dynamic work base. And then, of course, embracing new technology methods, new modern ways of working. It's what people are demanding. It's employees, it's agencies, it's a whole array of people that want to communicate and will want to communicate in different ways as we move forward. Benefits for remote working are fairly obvious, I suppose. We did a webinar, or I did a webinar a few weeks back where we looked at remote working in I suppose a little bit more depth. And of course, a lot of this is going to be around saving money. There's a lot of overheads associated with office space, with infrastructure. So there's cost savings to be made by the employer as well as the employee. Productivity levels will go up in the majority of cases as people develop structures at home, develop routines at home, and generally feel happier. So a happier employee will be a more productive employee. I'm sure there's many studies around the benefits of happier staff. And of course, enhanced security as more and more systems are developed. Sharing is done via the cloud, then documents and digitized workflows are going to be more secure than paper-based workflows. There's a hurdle around the signature. Touched on this slightly earlier. Again, paper processes, there is the inability to transfer a signature electronically. Post office delays, I'm not sure at the moment what the or how the Royal Mail is coping. We get post every now and then. Offices at the moment with skeleton staff, have they got the ability to receive post, to digitally scan that post and disseminate to staff that are in remote locations? So don't really think we can rely on the post, not just from delays of delivery, but even post that has been delivered may well be at the wrong location. Identification is needed for a lot of signature and approval processes. So again, how is that being processed and pushed to the right locations? And of course, where are signatures required? We've spoken about contracts, we've spoken about the hiring process, we've spoken about purchase orders, approval of invoices, and so on. I won't go into this slide again. This is I guess a little bit of an expansion on some of the benefits of remote working, and I'm sure we're all realising them day by day. And hopefully, when the kids go back to school, then there'll be even more benefits of remote working. Some of the things that employers need to think about and need to help facilitate their staff from working from home. So hopefully there's some further conversations that you can have with customers that might not necessarily be just around the whole ability to scan, but the wider piece when it comes to the video conferencing tools. Is your Skype, is your Zoom, is your Teams sufficient? Have you even tried to use any of these systems? Do you have the right tech, not just for you, but for your family? I myself have realised that with 4 of us at home, we don't all have the right tech, the right office furniture to do what we need to do. So that's what I meant probably earlier by the second peak, where not just employers are providing more, but also there's a message to the home users, so more of a consumer message around technology and equipment to help on this journey. Paper, we all know how expensive an overhead this is, and this goes back to some of the costs that will be saved by remote working, because things will have to get digital. And it's not just the direct costs around printing paper, printers, toner and ink, but some of the indirect costs such as postage, the retrieval of records, storing those records, whether they be in filing cabinets and so on, and perhaps the employee dissatisfaction and lack of productivity because they're spending a lot of time on what they perceive to be as menial tasks. GDPR, we all know about GDPR, freedom of information, privacy regulations. We've spoken about this in length, but it can't be ignored. We need to make sure we're talking to our customers about how are they dealing with their data. Do they have retention periods allocated to data that they've scanned? Do they know where their information is? We have a number of ISVs, again, that can help with a number of solutions around compliance and privacy. We have a slide here around paper versus digital. I think the key message here is for organizations that are within paper processes, they are creating a lot of unnecessary security risks and a lot of unnecessary cost as against a digital process. So moving to some of the benefits of scanning, we are looking primarily at our ScanSnap range at the moment. Very much a range of devices that will enable a smarter way of working at your home office. So the scanner you see here is the IX1500. Lots of different profile settings that you can allocate within the device, multi-user device. People can have a scan to email setting. They could have a scan to cloud setting, scan to editable Excel, Word, and so on. So it's all around improving efficiencies. So this would be in the processing side of things, purchasing accounts that we've spoken about, and the general comms distribution side. We'll see the reduced costs and we'll see increased quality. I'm realizing that I'm getting quite close to 10, so I'll probably skim through these slides a bit quicker than I did earlier, but I'm sure that you have seen many of these before. Further benefits of scanning that we haven't really spoken about so far. We probably have spoken about these. Disaster recovery. Again, we've seen a lot of instances recently with flooding, human disasters, fire, and so on around documents being lost, perhaps precious artifacts being lost, paintings, watercolors, etc. So we have the ability to scan beyond just your standard paper and look at other items. So we have a very good case study with the watercolor world where we're scanning watercolors to preserve for future generations. Wanted to put a quick slide in here around some comms that I'm developing for you, our channel partners around remote working. In the next few days, hopefully, here's a little sneak preview of some remote working content that we're going to be sending you. So please make sure you're signed up to our imaging channel program. And what this is essentially going to do is there's going to be a series of a few emails just to help you understand the opportunity that you can take to your customers. One of the really good things that we're going to have in this first comms is an editable email. So you can download this and then personalize this to immediately send to your customer base. This is going to be in English first, and then hopefully early next week this will follow in other languages. So keep an eye out for that. It will be some very good links, some very good information around remote working and how can we help you help your customers. We have a range of scanners. Happy to talk to you in more depth around these. We've got webinars on these. We've got our websites talking about these, and of course speak to your account managers. The IX 1500 itself, this is a very much a one-touch scanner. So if you remember our previous IX 500 model, which was our previous best-selling ScanSnap, that was very much around scan your documents first and then choose via the quick menu where you'd like that to go. The concept now of the IX 1500 is very much choose where you'd like your document to go first. Then you press the scan button, document will go through and off it will go to that destination. The IX 1500 also through ScanSnap Cloud, which is a piece of routing software, will allow you to preset document types that the scanner will recognize and then direct accordingly. So if it sees receipts, it will scan those direct to your expense system. If it sees a standard contract or a brochure, it can send that straight to Dropbox. So not even that need for that one touch. That can all be preset. It's all around recognizing the documents. It's all around automatic, intuitive naming of documents, sharing of documents. There's 4 licenses for the scanner. So again, there's a nice message there at home where perhaps dad could be scanning documents to the office or to colleagues. Mum could be scanning documents to her place of work, and the kids could be scanning documents to their teacher. They could be scanning documents to their grandparents who might not necessarily say documents, paintings, handwriting, communications to family members. So as I say, set up profiles, great scanner. For this day and age, we've got content. We'd love to help you work to get that out there to your customers. We still have, and this has been part of my webinar now for quite a few months, we just about reaching the last knockings of a promotion. So in a certain number of countries, we have an end user promotion where they can buy the IX 1500 and get the IX 100 for free. That's another 10 days, sorry, 8 days. So please, if we're putting any remote working messaging out, and as I say, I'd love to help work with you to get that out there, then please reference the promotion. This is great for customers who perhaps want something to scan and be a little bit more intuitive when they're at home or when they go back to the office. And then this is a remote device with a battery powered inside that will help you take your documents straight to the cloud. Please remind your customers to claim. So if there have been customers out there that have bought the IX 1500, then please remind them to claim. That's typically between day 30 and day 60 of the date of invoice, and that's done through a site that we host ourselves on our scansnapit.com. We will then process the claim, we will communicate with the customer, we will send out that free IX 100. So if you have got customers that have claimed, please just give them a shout and say, oh, don't forget to claim. Imaging awards, I can't really apologise for the fact that we still have the same models that we have had for a few months on here, but it's essentially around trying to reward you and say thank you to you for selling ScanSnap. So double bonus points on the IX 1500, double points on the S1300i. So make sure you log your sales, you'll get your points credited, and you can then use those to shop for a wide range of great gifts and experiences. And that was it. I whistled through those last slides, so apologies about that, but there are plenty of webinars on our imaging channel program where you can look into more depth into our products, our promotions, and perhaps some opportunities within vertical sectors. Please make sure you're signed up. We have a co-marketing center in there, a whole array of information and enablement tools that will help you better understand and position the scan opportunity. And my very final message, as always, is we have a great selection of content that we hold at third-party companies, CNET, IceCat, Web Collage, that you could essentially tap into. All you need to do is you need to put our part number on your system, get a relationship going with one of these companies, and you will automatically feed content over to your product page. So it's a really good way of making sure you've got the latest up-to-date content without any sort of manual intervention. So let me know if you want to do anything there. Appreciate your time. Thank you ever so much. We have a webinar coming up next week with an ISV partner of ours called AO Docs. So keep an eye out for that communication. It'd be great to have you on that webinar. They're going to be talking around legacy digitization and how they can help with some of your conversations around more of a document management solution. So have a good rest of the day. Thank you for joining me, and you will receive an automated email tomorrow with a link to this recording that you can share with a colleague. So thanks again, and goodbye.